Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Alright, so today I thought I would go back into the archives and get out a YouTube favorite. This is something that I started talking about 5 years ago. And videos on this subject are some of the most watched videos on my channel. I got to be honest, I don't know if people are still talking about this now, if people are still wanting to know how to exit the matrix and that kind of stuff. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. But what I'm going to do today in this video is I'm going to play back for you again. It's a short video that I had on the channel, and I still have, if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, you can get some online video training courses about how to exit the matrix, master the matrix, control the matrix. And I still think it's one of the best ways to get yourself in the best mental position to be able to interact with your life and get your life the way that you want. And I also think it's the best way to interface with reality. So as you know, I spend a lot of time helping people understand that what is most important in terms of your ability to do anything, truthfully, doesn't matter what, whether they're talking about, you want to do well in college, you want to do well in business, you want to do well in health, happiness, relationships, spiritual practice, it doesn't matter. This is a good teaching to ingest, because if you understand this, it doesn't matter how you feel. And this is one of the sad things about being human, but also about how we are programmed in our world today. And let me be clear, I would say that the human race is in a state of regression. That we are, as a whole, the human race is in a state of psychological arrested development. Based on how people react to, now global situations. I don't have a problem saying that the collective unconscious, bear in mind, I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking about the collective unconscious of the planet is pretty much in some kind of personality disorder. People as a whole are responding the same way individuals who have, narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder, how these people act in their individual lives and relationships. Whole giant populations of people are acting that way in response to political and global situations. And so people who have these personality disorders, one of the problems is that they operate from inaccurate assumptions about themselves and about their relationship to objective reality. So these 5 rules to master the matrix that I'm going to share with you again, it's on my channel. It's a short video, and as I said, I have deeper in-depth teachings about it if you're interested. But this is a helpful way to forget about trying to change the way that you feel. Listen, you're in pain, you're sad, you're lonely, you're confused, you have doubt, whatever. Those are feelings. And again, the difference between an infant and an adult is that the infant cannot separate their feelings from objective reality. So the narcissism of an infant is that their feeling is the universe. So they don't understand that they're having an individual reaction to things based on what they want. They don't know that, which is why babies scream cry when things don't happen the way they want. One little thing, you know, their bottom itches, they need to poop, they're hungry, they're sleepy, they scream cry. It's a tragedy. It's a serious crisis. It's a universe destroying crisis for them. Because they can't tell the difference. For them there is no difference. And so when people don't develop psychologically when they grow up, you end up with narcissists and people like that who can't tell the difference between their internal reality and external reality. So this is the problem behind when people ask me, how can I get over my fear of this? How can I get over my insecurity? How can I work through? And as you know, every time somebody asks me those questions, I always respond with the same sarcastic, pain in the ass remark, which is, when did I ever tell you you were supposed to get over something? I've never told you to do that. In fact, don't even bother trying to get over anything. Just take appropriate action. So the difference between neurosis and psychosis is this. A psychotic, somebody who's crazy, isn't capable of understanding objective reality. They have a fantasy that they project onto reality and they can't tell the difference. That's crazy. You don't know what you're going to get. Neurotic, which is most humans and the majority of, I would say, people on the planet, neurotic is when you know what objective reality is, but you don't like it. It causes you tremendous anxiety. And you try to put your fantasy onto objective reality, but it doesn't work and it causes you to be upset. And this is the bottom line behind any time any of us, not just you guys, but me, anytime anybody says, how can I get over this feeling? You're in a state of neurosis. And I, like anybody else, would want you to feel better. So I'm not saying you can't ever change your emotional state. You can learn how to do that. But it's not the most important thing in the moment. What's the most important thing in the moment is to take appropriate action in line with objective reality. And when you do that, regardless of how you feel, your life will get better, your relationships will get better, you'll make more money, you'll be physically healthier. One of the things people don't understand is that you can have all kinds of crazy feelings going on and your body will be healthy. One of the things that is confusing is people think if I can shut this feeling down, I'll be okay. And they push their feelings down into their unconscious and they feel consciously okay, but their body starts to erupt in all kinds of illnesses. So this is a response to people not being in alignment with objective reality and taking appropriate steps. So in order to do that, you have to destroy your narcissism, which in spiritual terms is dying to yourself. You know, Odin sacrificed himself to himself. Another way of saying that is Odin was willing to adjust his actions to objective reality, even if it was narcissistically injurious to him. So, in order to do anything, as you know, it's important to be a critical thinker. And again, most humans are not critical thinkers. Critical thinking is not what a lot of people want to say, which is knowing how to look at things scientifically. There's a lot of scientists out there who are also not critical thinkers. Critical thinking is being able to analyze information that comes to you or your own personal beliefs about anything without being influenced by emotional agendas or attachments. And so I talk you through all that. But I'm not going to do that here. What I am going to say is one of the first things you need to understand about just life in general is your assumptions will dictate your actions. Your assumptions may also dictate your beliefs, which will also dictate your actions. And remember, your actions are what create your reality. Forget about uh, the law of attraction. It is one of the most debilitating, destructive beliefs there are. The law of attraction, that the universe responds to you based on your emotions. That is, again, if we go back to the infant, the narcissistic infant feels that their feelings are reality. Their feelings not only are reality, their feelings are the universe. So this is why it's so popular, because we have so many emotionally regressed and psychologically arrested people in the world who operate from a regressed, narcissistic, infantile perspective on the world. They're in a lot of pain, and they ask the same questions. If you ask the same question to a person with law of attraction and you say, how do I get over my fear? They'll say, oh, you sit down and you put yourself into a state of happiness and trust. You ask me that, I say, when did I ever tell you you were supposed to get over a feeling? You're not supposed to get over your feelings. You're supposed to take conscious action regardless of your feelings. If you have great feelings, great. Good feelings, when good feelings motivate you to take positive, constructive action, hey, nobody likes that better than I do. That's fun. But that doesn't happen all the time. You can't guarantee that. It's insane. It is a form of insanity to try and deny your feelings. And the assumption, the belief that I must first feel a certain way before I can take action is by definition, narcissistic craziness. You're trapped in your infantile narcissism, and it's no fun, and it only creates more problems. Those people who go to the law of attraction, they pay thousands of dollars to go on cruises with Zohar the Magnificent, who channels aliens, and aliens who tell you very basic, sort of, nondescript, common sense things that you could figure out yourself. But the fact that it's coming from an alien makes it that much more believable, and you hype yourself up into this feeling of, yes, and I can now feel positive, and if I just think positively, and then there's other people doing deep breathing exercises, and they're all together, and there's this, and everybody's got starry eyes, and their pupils are dilated, and they go home excited, and then what happens? You try sitting on the edge of your bed and think happy thoughts, and after a few days, a couple weeks, a couple months, you're right back where you were, and you're worse now because it was supposed to be better. So what do? You spend another $5,000 and go on another cruise with Zohar the Magnificent as she channels the alien overlords. There's a simpler way to do that, which is to change your assumptions about your reality. Now, the great thing about assumptions are you don't have to have an emotional connection to change your assumptions. Religion does this very well, but religion uses all kinds of other hypnotic techniques to get you feeling all googly. When Christians tell you that if you believe, they tell you in order to be saved, you have to believe something, which is they're saying in order to be saved, you have to change your assumptions about the universe. You don't have to understand it. You just have to change your assumption. And the assumption they want you to accept is that Jesus Christ is God who came down to earth and allowed himself to be ritually murdered on the cross in order to save you from your sins, and then he died and rose from the dead and went to heaven. If you believe all of that, you will then be saved. It doesn't tell you that you have to change your actions, they don't tell you that your actions have a direct response to how you feel and your success in life. No, if you change your assumption, just change your assumption and it'll all be okay. But unfortunately, that assumption is based in nonsense. So it doesn't, the only thing that you can say is that I'm saved. Oh, my life is screwed up all to hell, but I'm saved, so it's okay. So we are going to change your assumptions about the universe. And so the 5 rules to master the matrix is a way for you to change your assumptions about your universe. And the end result of that will be that then you will be more equipped to take the actions necessary to stimulate the objective reality to align to what you want. And it's much more simpler than and a lot easier and far more effective than trying to sit on the edge of your bed and change your feelings and deny your feelings and then, you know, get all that craziness. And of course, in order for it to function best, it helps if you're willing to get out of your infantile narcissism, if you're willing to evolve. Now, evolution is painful. Ask Dr. Manhattan. Evolution is painful. It means you have to die to yourself. So in order to accept the assumptions that I'm going to be laying down to you in this video again, I'll replay the video from 5 years ago and then we'll come back and talk about it some more. What was I going to say? Anyway, we're gonna change your assumption. So the last thing I want to say is, if you have an incorrect assumption, if you have an incorrect belief about you and your relationship to objective reality, if you have an incorrect assumption, then all of the conclusions that you make once you accept that incorrect assumption, all of the conclusions you make after that will be either completely inaccurate or at best incomplete. And so the actions that you take, because remember, your actions will result from your assumptions. Your assumptions will dictate your beliefs and your actions. If your actions are then in alignment with an inaccurate or completely, totally incorrect assumption, then the results that you get from life will be associated with that. You'll have inconsistent, if not outright disastrous results based on your actions. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and watch this. Again, I made this video about 5 years ago. And as I said, I even went and did a few video courses on it, and they're still there if you want to take them. Anyway, let's watch it, and then we can talk about it. Hi, this is Michael William Denny of the ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel. So today, I want to talk to you about the 5 rules that you need to know in order to master the Matrix. If you understand these 5 rules, not only will you be able to master this computer program, which we call the Matrix that we live in, but you will never want to leave. You will have so much fun. Anyway, so let's get right into it. So the first rule of the Matrix is that you need to remember that you programmed the Matrix. You have chosen to be here. Your soul is infinite. It is not limited. You have not been created by any deity. You created yourself. There is nothing out there that has the power to control you, manipulate you, or victimize you unless you allow it. That's the first thing you have to remember. You created this Matrix. When you remember that, you will begin to wake up within the dream. It's what I call waking up within the dream. When you wake up within the dream, then this life becomes like living a lucid dream that you have control over. Okay? So that's the first rule, is that you created the Matrix. Now, when you created the Matrix, your soul was in, call it heaven, wherever you want. Your soul was in infinity. And your soul was aware that it was completely infinite and it was completely omnipotent. But it still wanted to learn and grow. So it created this Matrix, which we call human life. It took its infinity and it narrowed itself down and limited itself to this 3-dimensional physical meat bag, which we call a body.
And within this meat bag now, this is how we interface with the 3 dimensions of the matrix. Okay? Now, you created your story. Now, just like a video game, you pick an avatar, right? And you give your avatar a name, and you pick the shaman, or you pick the warrior, or you pick the elf, or whatever it is. So you picked whatever your avatar is. And you also picked all of the characters and the circumstances in your video game. So that means everybody that you interact with, they're characters that you wrote and put into the game, including me. Okay? And so that means that every major circumstance that you go through, positive or negative, is something that you've chosen. So it's either something that you specifically wrote into the storyline, or you wrote in potential outcomes for different actions. It's like if you open this door, it goes down a whole nother thing. So you give yourself little choices, but you've written all the potential outcomes of all the different actions that you've taken. So that's the first thing. That's the first rule. You wrote the game and everything in it. The game is designed to respond positively to actions taken from bravery, from fearlessness. Okay? That means every single time that you take an action or you take a risk in your life towards something that you want, and it's frightening for you, every time that you do that, every time you act against your fear and you do something that you're afraid to do, the game is designed to respond positively to that. And that means you get the power-ups, you get the special keys, you find the maps, opportunities and circumstances, and new characters come into your game. So it responds positively every time that you take actions based in fearlessness. Now, conversely, this is extremely important to understand. Most people have missed this, and this is why most people feel like victims, is that the game is also designed to respond negatively every time that you take actions or you adopt beliefs based in fear. That is why I hammer on people. I'm sorry if you think I'm attacking you. I'm not. But when people believe that they're victims, I hammer away at that. You are not a victim. There is nothing that's happened in your life that you yourself either haven't designed or that you have allowed to happen. The game is designed that way. You designed it that way because your soul wants to learn and it wants to grow. And this video game that your soul is in is a game that the main thing that it's teaching you is to take actions based in fearlessness. So when you take actions or you adopt belief systems out of fear, you're going to get a negative response from it. This goes into rule number 4. Now this is also extremely important. And if you understand this rule, this 4th rule, you will master the game. This is where most people get stuck. And that is this. When you take actions repeatedly, when you repeatedly take actions, especially if you take the same actions based in fear over and over and over again, this sends out a message to the game, and the game automatically responds by creating a virus. This virus creates self-perpetuating negative loops, self-perpetuating loops based in fear. What it means is that if you take continuous action based on fear, then what happens is it gets extremely hard to get out of that. That means that people who are trapped in fear, who believe that they're victims, will continue to seek out people, institutions, situations which will reinforce their fear-based ideas and keep them trapped. And so people who have this virus, the virus grows and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And on the extreme levels, this virus becomes insanity. This is all that insanity is. If somebody is insane, it means that they have taken actions based in fear over and over and over and over again, and the virus grows and grows and grows and grows, and it creates its own little mini matrix within the matrix, and you get stuck in it. This is what insanity is. Okay? So that means that if you're one of those people, and I've been in that place, so I know exactly what this feels like. If you're one of those people and you're trapped in one of these self created loops of fear, that means that every time that you take an action based in fearlessness, you're going to bump into severe resistance. Your mind is going to throw up all kinds of red flags and all kinds of fears and confusion. It's going to be very difficult to get out of it. But the way that the game is built is that it's designed to hammer into you the destructiveness of fear-based beliefs and fear-based actions. So some people never get out of that loop in one lifetime. You know, after they leave, what the soul does is it goes back up and it goes, wow, I got stuck in one of those fear loops. I didn't make it out. And so what happens is you create the matrix again, and sometimes you make it more difficult because, listen, we respond just as well to negative reinforcement as positive reinforcement. But this is how the game is designed. The game is designed so that you get so sick and tired of the negative reinforced actions that you don't do it anymore. And trust me, once you've pulled yourself out of one of those fear virus loops, you never want to go back. And you learn the lesson. You stop taking yourself so seriously. You stop taking this life. People who talk about how victimized they are and how this life is a prison and, oh my gosh, you take yourself so seriously. Listen, it's easy for me to say because I've gotten out of that. I'm not in that loop anymore. Okay, so that's number 4. Repeated actions based in fear create these self-perpetuating fear virus loops. Very difficult to get out of, but if you keep taking action based in fearlessness, regardless of the resistance that comes up in you, you eventually get out of that. And then once you're out, you never have to go back. Okay? All right, so rule number 5. The point of the matrix, the point of the game, is for you to learn the difference between your true desires, the desires of the soul, what I call your soul desires, and your false desires. These are desires based in fear. These are desires created by the reptilian brainstem. Now, the reptilian brainstem is a feature of the game. You know, like all games have little traps in it. The reptilian brainstem is a trap of the game. And by the way, all the reptilians that exist in the world who lord over you and control you, they only exist here. That means that you're in a little maze, trapped in, and if you look at the reptilian brainstem, it looks like a maze. You're trapped in the maze. And within those mazes is the reptilians, okay? So if you get out of that maze, you never have to deal with the reptilians ever again. All right, so when you understand the difference between your true desires and your false desires, then you start to have fun. Now, this is called mastery of the game. Once you master the game, you don't want to leave. Somebody had asked me, you know, in the previous video, if you know the rules to exit the game, why haven't you exited? Because I'm having too much fun. If you remember, by the way, if you watched the movie, The Matrix, Neo doesn't exit the Matrix. He stays in there because it's too much fun. When you master the game, it's too much fun. You don't want to leave. And I'm in that place right now. Now, this is the great thing about knowing the true desires from the false desires. False desires are, you know, pretty typical. Most people have them. Money, fame, power. You know, some people ask this question, you know, why is it more difficult? Why are some people born into more difficult circumstances than others? Well, the first one is they chose to be in that because they have an advanced soul. And if you have an advanced soul that when you come out of the game and you go back up into, you know, infinity, you go, man, that was fun. I want to gain more power. And so to gain more power, you make the game more difficult. The people who have it so easy, look at so-and-so, he has it so easy. I know I've suffered from that. I'm just going to give you an example. I mean, I could give you a bunch of examples, but I'm just going to give you one. Kanye West. That guy has everything anybody could want. He has money, he has fame, he has success, he has the hot model wife. I'm sure he could get any woman that he wants. And where is he right now as I make this video? He put himself into an insane asylum. He's locked up because he's crazy. He's miserable. And he's miserable because he is, number one, I think he's a new soul to this plane. And he thought that if he came down and he had all the stuff that he would be happy. And so he's learning the lesson. Trust me, next time around, when he comes back, he's going to make it a little more difficult on himself because he realizes that's not the way to happiness. You know, so negative reinforcement has its place. All the difficulty that you go through is based on giving you the negative reinforcement because, you know, once you touch that hot stove and you burn your finger, you don't touch that hot stove again. Okay? So, anyway, these are the 5 rules of the Matrix and how to master it. Now, I want to respond to some very legitimate responses to my previous video, which is that everything that we've experienced in life, we've chosen. And people would say, why in the world would somebody choose to be abused or raped or killed or tortured? It's a really good question. The reason that people choose to do that is because, like I said, these are advanced souls who either have made mistakes in previous lives, that they've gone down the path of false desires, and they really want to learn the lesson. And the way, like for instance, let's say in a past life you were abusive to others. You took the easy way out and you thought that power was going to give you happiness. So you created yourself king of the world or whatever it was, and then you got lost in that. You got deceived in that false desire. And as I said, it's self-perpetuating. You get in a self-perpetuating loop. You became abusive and you were hurtful to others. Well, when you're in infinity, you know, you sit there and you go, wow, man, that was not fun. But I'm afraid that if I don't give myself some difficult, challenging life, I may do it again. So I want to go back and I want to know what it was like. That's why people do it. Somebody mentioned children. Now, again, if you're saying that there's a difference between children and adults, then you're not understanding the basic premise, which is that your soul is infinite. And every soul has chosen to be a child at some point. And they choose the people and they choose the scenarios. Okay? So, you know, look, here's just the practical thing about difficulty in life. And it's up to you. I know it's difficult to comprehend how could my soul possibly choose to be in such a difficult, horrific, painful situation? Well, the first thing is, from the soul's perspective, it's a video game. It's just like when we go and watch a movie and we see horrible things, or we watch horror movies or whatever, we know that it's not real. If we were to see that in real life, it would be a totally different experience. But when we look at it from the objectivity of sitting and, you know, then we know it's not real. That's what it's like for the soul. When we go and we create these video games that have things that we think are just unbearably horrible, it's not that way for the soul. The soul doesn't see it that way. So that's why if you see somebody who's living in horrific circumstances like the children in Aleppo, I mean, my heart goes out to them. But what I see is I see very advanced souls who've chosen to go through difficult scenarios because they really are brave and they really want to learn to empower themselves. That's why you will get a lot of powerful stuff in this game if you help people like that. People who, like children who need help, if you help them out, you're going to get all kinds of positive things because those are advanced souls that are making their way through this game. All right? And the danger is just the same for them. They could get trapped in fear-based loops and all that. So for anybody who's recovering from any kind of abuse, you know, again, you guys don't know anything about me or my past. So I'm not minimizing what anybody's gone through. Anybody listening to me that's gone through difficult, painful stuff, you are an advanced soul. And the way out of that is to honor that and to say, yes, I chose this because I wanted to learn. What am I here to learn with this? What did I choose? What lesson did I want to teach myself? Because if you don't adopt that attitude, you're in danger of getting in one of those fear loops. And then you'll be one of those people who are victimized for the rest of their lives. So there's a practical aspect to this, which is, why would you want to live in a universe where there's an omnipotent God or these evil archons or all whatever who have the power to manipulate you, to suck the life out of you? Why would you choose to live in that universe? I don't want to live in that universe. And listen, I could go into my life now and what my life used to be like. I don't have time in this video. I'm going to talk more about that. But listen, my life, if you were to look at my life, I rent a tiny little 1-bedroom house. And now I love it. It's very quiet and very private. Little tiny 1-bedroom house. My only income comes from making these videos and from the books that I write and from a few people that I counsel with privately. Every month I'm barely making it, but you know what? I've just accepted that. And as long as I don't get flipped out about it, I have such freedom. I'm 53 years old, and I have the body of a 25-year-old Olympic athlete. I'm not on any medications. I don't have any health issues. A lot of people my age are on all kinds of medications. They got all kinds of problems. And they have all the money in the world, a lot of them. But they're miserable, some of them. So this is what I mean. When you master the game and you understand and you know how to play this game, the freedom and the joy that you experience is boundless. And by the way, that's the point of the game. When you master the game, you live in perpetual joy. Doesn't mean you don't have issues or challenges. That's part of the game. But you have this continuing joy throughout your life. Anyway, that's it for now. I could go on and on and on. I will. There'll be more videos about this, but that's it for now. If you like this video, if you like this channel, you can support the channel. If you don't see this, scroll below where it says support this channel. Subscribe, like, tell your friends about it. And listen, look at the other videos that I have on this channel. Do the meditations and the energy practices that I teach, and you can begin to grow on this path. If you want personalized attention, you can become an apprentice, or you can have a private session with me, and I can teach you how to do this stuff. Anyway, so that's it for now, my friends. Until next time, may the Matrix be your servant.
All right, so that was 5 years ago. And at the end, I was a little embarrassed at some of the things I was saying at the end. To my credit, I was being honest with you. When I made that, here's the thing about what I do. Maybe I shouldn't tell people this, but this is the truth. Whenever I want to change something or change the dynamics of my life, I create video, not all the time, but sometimes I create video teachings about something I want to master. So as you heard in that video, at that time I was actually living, it wasn't a 1-bedroom house, it was a no-bedroom house. It was a studio house that somebody had built in their backyard. At that time I was currently living in Carson, California, which, if you know anything about that, is pretty much South Central LA. I didn't have hardly any money at all. I had just gotten out of a really nasty divorce a couple of years earlier. I had to start over from scratch. And look at where I am now. Here I am now, 5 years later, and I practice what I teach. So those 5 rules were the 5 rules that I myself were practicing with everything I had on a daily basis. And here I am now, 5 years later. I live in a 3-bedroom house, 2.5-story bedroom house across the street from rainforest, beaches that go in all directions, empty beaches. I went surfing yesterday morning, and it was just unbelievable. And I was out there the whole time going, wow, this is my fantasy. I really can't imagine anything beyond this. This is it. And that's a result of practicing and living those 5 rules of mastering the matrix. So Everything I teach is something that I personally practice and that I've proven in my life. So, when I mentioned about having the body of a 25-year-old athlete, that was embarrassing for me to hear me say that. But what had just happened was I had gotten my blood work back, and the doctor was like, "How old are you?" This is, he was like looking at my numbers and like, "My God, are you an athlete? Are you an Olympian? What the hell am I looking at?" So I was kind of in shock at that time at the age of 53 to have somebody tell me that. So, again, very quickly, what are the 5 rules to master the matrix? First thing, again, this is an assumption. So what I said earlier is if you have an accurate assumption, then your actions will be based on your assumptions. If you have an inaccurate assumption, then every conclusion and every action at best will be incomplete, if not outright tragically inaccurate. It could be disastrous. So these are 5 principles that if you adopt, you don't have to feel them, you don't have to like them, but if you adopt them and take action on them, you will find what you'll get. And so I've proven this in my life over and over, and people who followed it also can tell you that it's changed their lives as well. So number 1 is you wrote the matrix. You're not a victim of the matrix, you wrote it. Number 2, the matrix responds positively to fearless action, not the universe responds positively to your happy emotions. No, the matrix responds positively to fearless action. Fearless action means that you aren't free of fear. It means that you act as though you're fearless. Doesn't mean that you feel fearless. You act as though you are. You take action. You say, that's impossible. I can't do that. I don't have enough money. I'm not qualified. You take action, even if you, regardless of how you feel, if you take fearless action towards what you want, the universe will respond positively. There will be a positive feedback. Number 3, the matrix responds negatively to fear-based action. That's pretty clear. Most people do that. When you're afraid, oh, I shouldn't do that, I'm not ready, I'm not qualified, what happens if I fail? Instead of doing that, I'm going to go back to school and get a degree in marketing just in case my dream of being a musician doesn't work out. Well, the universe is going to respond negatively to that. In fact, I'll share a story with you. I have a friend of mine whom I've known for years. He is a very talented musician, and that's what he does for a living. And he decided he was going to, in fact, we met in college. I was getting a theater degree and he was getting I don't know if he was getting a communications degree or something like that. I can't remember what, but in any case, just a few years back, but he was in his 50s, he decided to go back to school and get a master's degree because he thought that would help him. I don't know how he thought that was going to help him. But I remember before he did it, I said, "Are you sure you need to do that?" That sounds, he's like, "Well, I want to have a backup, I'm getting older." And I thought, it's none of my business, but I thought to myself, that sounds like kind of a fear-based action. He should just keep, doing what he's doing. He went back to school for 2 years, and it ended up, long story short, was a very traumatic experience for him. And it ended up ruining his finances, and he ended up in debt, and it was very psychologically traumatic. And he got his reputation was smeared in all kinds of ways. And I was like, my instincts were right. He should have. Those kinds of actions of, before I do that, I'm going to go get a backup degree in this, and those fear-based actions. That's just an example. Respond in negative. You get a negative response from objective reality. And the negative response is supposed to wake you up so that you go back to being fearless again. But most people, instead, they double down. They get a negative response, so it makes them more fearful, which makes them take even more fear-based action, which creates that loop I talked about. These negative responses drive you deeper into fear, create more negative responses, and then you end up believing all of these conspiracy theories. That's what people who have conspiracy theories, you're trapped in a negative, fear-based loop. The Matrix is trying to wake you up, say, hey, this fear-based nonsense isn't getting you anywhere, but you're not listening. Continued fear-based action, as I said, creates a fear-virus loop in the Matrix. And then the fifth, which is most important, is that, and I can vouch for this 5 years later, that the result, that your basic nature of your soul is joy, which should be the driving force of every decision you make. And if you operate from that, what is my greatest joy here? You don't tell yourself the Zohar the Magnificence nonsense, which says if you're in happiness all the time, then good things happen. No, if you understand that if you're in joy and you take action towards it, you might have some challenging tests that come up. We call it unconscious resistance on this channel. You might have some unconscious resistance, but that doesn't stop you from taking positive action. So you do the opposite of number 4, which is if you keep doing negative, if you keep taking actions based on fear, you'll continue to get negative results. If you do the opposite, if you keep taking actions based on what your joy is, regardless of the fear, you will get more and more positive reinforcement from the universe, regardless of your uncomfortable feelings. All right, so I've talked the hell out of that. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. What I prefer, of course, is honest questions. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps and then ask me your question, and I'll do my best to answer it. You can also share an honest feeling. That's helpful for me as well. An honest feeling is, I feel so-and-so's full of crap. No, that's not an honest feeling. An honest feeling is, I'm scared, I'm happy, I'm confused. Those are honest feelings. And you can have an honest feeling, and I won't judge your honest feeling. All right? So, let's get to what we got here today. So first, Green Skydiver, do me a favor. If we have a lot of people on the channel, I may not see your question. The way to get my attention, if you look below, you see somebody write the word question in all caps. That's to get my attention. The rest doesn't have to be in all caps. So just letting you know, that's the best way to get my attention so I can answer your question. You say, if you take action towards your desire knowing the positive outcome, does it still count as a fearless action? Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand what the confusion is there. Fearless action, I mean, fearless action doesn't mean fearless feelings, but a fearless feeling means that, yeah, no, this is a shoo-in. I'm good as gold. So if you have the corresponding feelings, I feel fearless and I'm going to take fearless action based on this, then yeah, it still counts. Soulblade, question. How your current COVID experience? I don't want to answer that. I don't know. I don't have COVID. If you're asking me, do I have COVID? I don't have COVID. But you know what? Here, look, COVID is going to come and go. COVID is temporary. So are the political problems around the world. So is whoever the current president is. Even nations. Rome fell. Rome was the biggest, most strongest, stablest empire in history, and Rome is gone. So even the United States someday will fall. Everybody's going to fall. All this is temporary. Let's focus on the permanent. COVID is temporary. I don't want to get into that. There's nothing in there for any of us. Off-world entrepreneuring. All right. I don't see it. There's not a question there. Kunga Dorje says, I'm in a good mood. Well, I'm happy that it's good. All right, what else? Pay attention and give effort. Yep, those are the two most important things in your life. Pay attention and put effort. Those have nothing to do with how you feel. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against people feeling good. I do everything in my power to feel good as much as I possibly can. Green Skydiver, question. Look at Green Skydiver. paid attention and put effort. I gave a request, an instruction, and they followed it. Question, is it possible to get to your joy fast, or is there usually a time lag on how much fear-based action you have taken? So this question goes back to what we've been talking about and what I talk about earlier in the video. This isn't about your feelings. Your question really is about, so do I have to feel bad? I don't want to feel bad. Well, you're going to feel however you're going to feel. I don't need for you to feel bad. The truth is that some people don't feel bad about taking positive action. Some people respond positively when challenges come up in their life. It gives them more impetus. It doesn't matter. Your feelings aren't what's important here in terms of the action. Now, don't get me wrong. The ultimate goal is to feel good. And that is, we have two kinds of emotions. We have the self-generated emotions based on our past and based on our narrative, the feelings that pop up, just for no reason. Some people have more damage and more trauma and more bad programming than others. And so some people, no matter how successful they are, will have uncomfortable feelings and thoughts pop up throughout the rest of their life. And some people won't. So don't get caught up in that. I understand why you do. I'm no different than you. I still go through the same things. I have a favorite phrase. I'll write it down. It's the only positive affirmation that I use. There's a difference between a positive affirmation and a mantra. Most people don't know the difference, but I'll write it down for you. And I didn't make it up, but it's the most powerful affirmation I've ever heard, and I use it sometimes on a daily basis. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly accept myself. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. I forgot the completely. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. So the desire to fight against your feelings will work against you in terms of your actions. This is why on the battlefield, somebody who wants to have a heart-to-heart, with his sergeant as they're about to go into battle, that sergeant will put a bullet in his head right there because he'll kill everybody. If that guy's sitting there whining and complaining and he's having a moment and he needs to cry about his feelings, and you're about to go and launch an attack on the enemy, you're going to get everybody killed. Your need to indulge in your feelings at that moment is bad news. But when you're alone afterwards, then you can go to the psychiatrist and have your PTSD dealt with. So I forgot what I was saying about that, but people still, this is what you're asking me. You're asking me, can I have a feeling fast? So you don't understand what I mean by joy, and that's okay. It's a little bit of a different concept. So to fully understand that, go watch my playlist on the shamanic secret, commandment to a perfect life. I've got a book. If you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, or if you just go type it into Amazon, you can get the book. And I've said before, it's the most important book that I have. If you can master that little pamphlet, it's not even a book, it's just a tiny little book. If you can master what's in that book, you won't have to, everything else will be gravy. So you understand the concept that your joy is what drives you, but you think your joy is something you have to get to. And that's not how it works. So to understand that, you can go to career.thunderwizard.com and you can take that course, or I explain how to get yourself there. I'm not going to do that in this video. But your joy is your soul, and your soul is constantly in a state of joy. Now, you're not going to feel that 24/7. That's okay, because your soul is in this meat bag. This meat bag has a brain, which has a history, and you have whatever else. So you have all kinds of feelings that are being generated by your thoughts and your physical body and all that. I'm not talking about those kinds of feelings. Joy, we could replace joy with inspiration. So what happens is when you are able to, and I take you through how to do it, I talk you through the questions of how to figure out what your soul desire is, because most people don't know. And if you don't know what your soul desire is, you don't know what actions to take. So when you know what your soul desire is, once you know that, then you don't have to worry about whether or not I feel good about it. Do I feel inspired? That becomes irrelevant. You just know what the actions are, and you know that taking those actions toward your soul desire might be the most frightening thing you've ever done. But at some point, when you become aware, there will be at the very least a flash of joy. When I think about yesterday morning, surfing, I mean, the only reason I'm not surfing today is because the reality is I need to take a day off. Otherwise, I would surf every day. I could, as long, and the conditions are beautiful. But I can't. If I go out and I surf for 2 hours, I need my back and my shoulders need to rest for a day. But when I think about yesterday, I'm filled with joy. And that tells me that's my soul desire. And if I make that my priority, what ends up happening? I get it. When you saw this video I made 5 years ago, I had to drive a half an hour to the beach. I had to drive from South Central LA in my tiny little shack that I could barely afford. I would drive from there, a half an hour to, crowded Manhattan Beach in order to go surfing. And I fantasized about what I have now. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it existed. I didn't think I could live in a first world country that spoke English and had cars and supermarkets and things like that, and I could have the exact scenario that I have. I didn't think it existed. But I kept it because I knew every time I thought about it, I'd be filled with joy and inspiration. And now I'm living it. It's not a fantasy anymore. I continue to take action, fearless action, based on my joy. I had the inspiration of what I wanted, and I kept on taking action towards it, and now I have it. So it's not about getting to your joy. You're trying to it's not something that you get to. And your question of, is it possible to get to your joy fast, or do I have to have a lag time with fear base? Being based, again, you're wrapped up in your feelings. Your feelings are going to be good and bad every day. That's the weather. The weather changes every day. Your plan, once you know what your joy is and you know what your soul wants, while you can remember that inspiration, go write down what you're going to do. Then you start creating a plan. And you take action on the plan regardless of how you feel. All right? So hopefully I explained answered your question. Alpha of the beta. Question: what is your most persistent obstacle? Well, how does that help you? What is your most persistent obstacle? You know what? I don't, at the moment, I'm not even thinking about it. I don't even feel like I have an obstacle. I don't feel that way. I don't feel an obstacle between me and my soul desire because I'm actually living it. The only thing now is, what can I improve? And I'm always constantly looking for things that make me even more happy. And some days I can't figure it out. Like if there's anything more, I can't think of anything else. If there was one other thing that I would do differently, which I do plan on doing, I'm going to wait until this pandemic calms down. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have the same scenario I have now, except instead of being across the street from the ocean, I'm going to be right on the ocean. And that's going to be how I improve a little bit more. But, I don't know. What difference does it make what my obstacle is? And I don't even know what matters. What is your most persistent obstacle? I don't know what the importance of that is either. Here's the thing. My ancestors had a positive affirmation, which is, those that die in battle go to Valhalla. And what it means is those who are willing to die to achieve their soul desires, achieve nirvana, enlightenment, Valhalla, whatever it is happiness. And you can achieve that without dying. Dying in battle doesn't mean getting a sword in the neck. It means dying to yourself, dying to your limitations. And that comes through fearlessness. When you're in battle, it's a great metaphor because, again, in battle, there's no point, you don't talk to the guy and say, hey, you know what, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this today. I'm going to come back later when I feel more, I'm feeling vulnerable. That guy looks really mean. I think he's going to stab me in the head. I don't think I want to do that. That you'll get killed. The guy will kill you on the spot, like I said earlier. So asking me these questions, all of these questions are the same. What's your biggest obstacle? Who cares? The obstacle is whatever the obstacle is. If your focus is on your goal, obstacles, big or small, are irrelevant. It's not, oh my God, that obstacle I can't get past. No, it's like, no, I'm going to have that or I'm going to die. If that obstacle kills me, it kills me. So that attitude, while I understand it, doesn't serve me. And at the moment, I got to be honest with you, I don't feel like there's obstacles in my life. I have feelings, I have unresolved issues that I work through, but I've learned that if I continuously take fearless action, even if I don't feel fearless, based on what I know my soul wants, even if in that moment I'm not aware of the joy or the inspiration, if I continue to follow my plan for living my greatest joy, I always get it. I'm always healthy. I always have enough money. I'm happy, and life does what life does. So, again, the attitude behind the question creates an assumption. So the assumption behind your question is that everybody has a persistent obstacle. That's an assumption. I don't have a persistent obstacle. Do you have a persistent obstacle? It's okay with me if you do. But who cares? All you need to know is what your soul wants to do and go do it. Whatever obstacles, this is 5 years later from that video. Listen, that video could have been completely the opposite. I could have been complaining about how I lived in a studio house in South Central LA, and that I didn't know if I said I was currently in debt and I was going through a bankruptcy. And I didn't say, I could have been so wrapped up in all the negativity, and I could have made a whole thing about how they're doing it to us in the banking system and politics and the damn liberals and the elite. I could have easily taken those obstacles and turned it into that, but I didn't, because I was pretty clear that whatever those negatives were, whatever those limitations were, they were temporary, and I was still able to do what I wanted, and I had chosen to live there. That's the other thing. That was my choice. I could have chosen to live wherever I wanted. I even said how much freedom I had. I chose to live in that very inexpensive scenario. I still had access to the things that I wanted, but I chose that for good reasons, because I didn't want to go work another job. I wanted to create my channel, which is what I was doing. I was laying the foundations for what I have now, and I live off of my channel. It's my business, and it pays me well. As have I shown you where I live? This is my desk. I look out at this every day as I'm doing videos. See the ocean over there, and there's the forest surrounding me on all sides. This is my desk, and it's a big shift from where I was making that video. All right, so let's see, did I answer that question? And again, most of these questions are going to be about you guys wanting to indulge in your feelings and how to get over your feelings, and you don't realize that. That's not what it's about. By the way, in case you want help, here's another way to answer your question. Basically, how do I get over it? How do I get to the joy? I do have a hack that I use. And the hack is this. This taps me directly into the most powerful energy source in the body, which to my knowledge is not taught in any other tradition except for this one, which is it's the lightning power surrounding the heart. It is a feminine energy. You literally have a goddess within your body. The goddess, the essence of the goddess is lightning. And this is a power that protects your heart. It's called the Emperor's bodyguard. It surrounds your heart, because your heart is where your soul lives, and your soul is the Emperor. When surrounding this is this lightning. When you tap into that lightning, you work through all of the wounds and the traumas that you have that you've been holding on to, and you get to the joy. So to answer your question, that's a fast way to get to it. But that's also, got some experiences as well, which is like Dr. Manhattan. If you want the full power of the lightning, you're going to have to go through a transformation. So, but the end result of that is also joy. The more that I keep doing these practices, the more power I get and the more joy I get. So I do use some cheats. You don't need them, but it's a lot harder without them. All right, so you go to thunderwizard.com, look for the Warrior 90-Day Challenge and subscribe. And there are videos on there that are members only, and you just simply click play and I narrate you through some physical practices. You can see me doing some of them right here. I narrate you through the physical practices, and what'll happen is that'll open up that power within you. You will become connected to both your joys, and you'll have some other feelings come up that you'll be burning through. And you may have a Dr. Manhattan experience, but when you come out the other side, like Dr. Manhattan is, after he completely is destroyed, he puts himself back together, and now he's a super being. That's the experience. So I wasn't teaching that back then 5 years ago when I was teaching how to master the matrix. I wasn't teaching this path yet because I still was wanting to, basically I'm breaking the rules. If I was teaching this 20 years ago, I would have gotten a serious, talking to by my teachers, but they're no longer part of my life. I've moved beyond that, and I'm now choosing to break the rules, and I am publicly teaching this path, which has been very helpful to me. All right, so back to the 5 rules to master the matrix. See, where was I? Buddy Helm question: what happens to the soul of a tree that has fallen over naturally? Buddy Helm, look, are you new to the channel? You're not that new because you're writing the word question. Are you doing any of these things? Are you doing any of the free things that are on the channel? That question, really, what does it matter? How does that knowledge help you? How does that knowledge help you with what we're doing right now? To answer your question, the souls of the trees are just fine. They have their own scenario. They have their own connection. I think you can answer that question. What happens to the soul of a tree if it falls over naturally? What happens to a human being when they die of natural causes? What's the difference? Buddy Helm, I encourage you to focus on what's important. That question is the kind of question somebody would ask if they've been smoking weed all day and they want to sit around and indulge in their intellectual blah. Unless you're a shaman and that means something to you. I don't know. But that's not what we're talking about today. I want to help you have what we're talking about, mastery of the matrix. Donovan Hunter, you liked my podcast about the Lay of Always. Well, I've talked about that and many others. I have how many, do I have thousands of videos on this channel? So if you know how to search within the channel, you can. If you know how to look at a channel and look at their playlists, you can see that I've got Mythology. I've got many more. So I encourage you to learn how to search within my channel, figure out how to You know, if you're watching it on a laptop and you go to the channel page, there will be a few menus, and then there will be a magnifying glass. You click on that. You put in whatever search words you want, and if you put in mythology, it'll pop up, and you'll see how many videos on my channel I talk about that. So again, time, putting effort, and paying attention. These are the two most important things. I encourage you to learn how to search through my channel so you can find everything you want, because I put a lot of time and effort in doing exactly what you're asking. Welcome to the channel. Dakota Spruill, question: why did the giants create the wall that guards Asgard? Well, the giants didn't create it. The giants were hired to build it. But that is something that I teach in the Thunder Shamanism videos. I don't know. I don't think you can get the DVDs anymore. Even I don't think I can get the DVDs anymore. But I have a book, Thunder Shamanism. So I'll answer that pretty quickly. We have the 9 worlds, right? So here's a map of the 9 worlds. Center is Earth, and then we have all the other 9 worlds. In the Thunder Shamanism videos, I tell you what world is in what direction, and etc., etc. So we have 2 worlds in the 9 worlds that have walls around them that are called fortresses. One is Osgard, or Asgard, which is the fortress of the celestial gods. And then you have Midgard, or Midgard, which is Earth, where we live. 3-dimensional reality is the Midgard, the middle fortress. So these are the only 2 worlds that have a fortress. So you build a fortress to protect yourself from outside forces. The celestial deities, as opposed to the terrestrial deities, which would be the Vanir. The Vanir are the terrestrial deities who are also called the elder gods. They're not the elder gods because they're older. They're the elder gods because they live in space-time. They're older and wiser, and that's why they're involved in magic and fertility and things that have to do with time and space. The celestial deities do not live in time and space. They do, but it's like they're celestial deities. So if you know anything about the stars live for millions or billions of years, and one of the things that keeps the stars from collapsing in on themselves because of the intense gravity that they have is the electromagnetic force. That is stronger than gravity. It doesn't stop it, but it slows it down. And so stars are actually fighting to preserve their life. They are seeking to go beyond time. So their greatest enemy is time and decay. The Vanir, they move through life and death and all of that. They're part of it. They enjoy that. The Aesir do not. The Aesir are children. They live in a black and white world of extremes. This is why they're so righteous. This is why people who are conservative leaning, they tend to be very black and white thinkers. They tend to be very judgmental. They don't like, people who, gay marriage, and they don't like people from outside of their social, political, genetic circle, their religious circle. They don't like change. They can't tolerate it. That's why they're called conservative. That's why it's keep America great again, which is you want to go back as though there's something in the past that was great and we need to go back to that. That's conservative. Conservative is always talking about how things were in the past. And people who are progressive, the word progressive, progress forward. Those are left-leaning people. They like change. They like the mixture of the races and different sexualities. So you have these 2 clashes, and this is the Vanir versus the Aesir. So the Aesir, in order to preserve their timeless perfection, which of course they won't, which is why they are at war with the Vanir, To preserve that, they build a wall around it to protect themselves from decay, from space-time. The other wall around middle yard, or the three-dimensional reality, is that we are being accosted all the time in the center here by all of these energies. And if we were to feel all of these energies all the time, we would turn into Dr. Manhattan. We would explode. So we need to be protected from that. And so we have, just like the Earth has a protective atmosphere around it, we have a wall around three-dimensional reality to keep us safe. So, does that answer your question? Why are the forces of infinite growth from the east what protects Valhalla? Seems weird. Well, hopefully I've explained it to you now. Dakota Spruill question, does that relate to the lizard brain? You have to be specific. I don't know what you're asking me. What does what relate to the lizard brain? Serpent and Dove question, why would my soul desire have a corresponding factor would my soul desire? I'm sure that there is, and maybe there are Vedic astrologers. I'm a Vedic astrologer. Maybe Vedic astrologers know how to do that. I haven't found that yet. But the thing is, you don't have to know that. If you're asking me that because you want to look at your astrology chart because you don't know what your soul desire is, that is a very long and unnecessary task. I've explained it many times. Go to career.thunderwizard.com or watch my videos about the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. There's a very easy 4-question thing you can take yourself through to find out what your soul desire is. And the only reason anybody does not know what their soul desire is because they have conflict. So let me give you the 2 main reasons you came to this world. Let me simplify everything for you. You came here, as I said in this video, because your soul wanted to experience joy. It wanted, just like when we play a video game, your soul wanted to have a 3-dimensional video game experience where it could have fun. Because as a soul can't enjoy things like sex, food. I couldn't surf. If I was an infinite soul, I wouldn't have the limitations to enjoy what happens when you're on this board and you're being pushed by this energy wave that is being used by water. I mean, all the fun. I'd have to be limited in order to enjoy surfing. So my soul wanted to do that in this life, and so it incarnated in this 3-dimensional meat bag. By the way, I've been surfing since I was 10. It's the one thing that has been, the most enduring thing in my life. So you have a soul desire, and your soul knows exactly what it is, and all you have to do is get access to your soul. But what makes the video game fun is this thing called karma. And so karma is going to manifest as obstacles to your soul desire. Negative karma, I should say. Negative karma, which is just simply the negative repercussions of the fear-based... Let me make it even more clear. Throughout many lifetimes, you are forced into this scenario based on your choice to be here of taking fearless action regardless of the obstacles that present themselves. When you come here and you take action based in fear, you create negative karma because you're working against your soul. So that becomes a negative karma that you either play out in that life, or if you haven't worked through it, then you bring it into your next life by choice, and then that will arise. Karma will always reveal itself as some impetus to be loved and accepted by 3-dimensional reality. You're going to want, it starts with your parents. You want your parents' love and approval. There's nobody on the planet that isn't driven by that, even if their parents are dead. They still take actions based on unconsciously wanting their parents' love and approval. If you had dysfunctional parents who did not reflect back to you their desire for you to live your soul desire, if they imposed upon you their projections of a good person does this and you'll never make it if you do that, and money is evil or sex is bad or whatever it is, you're going to have a fight. For instance, let's say sex is bad and your parents filled you with guilt about sex. You are going to go through some trauma because your body will want to have sex. And then you will have to make a choice. Do I want to make mommy and daddy happy, or do I go fulfill my own desires? And then you'll go through all those questions about, your worth based on, how you feel as opposed to what other people are telling you. This is karma. So when it comes to living your soul desire, there's, you came here to live your soul desire. That's the reason you incarnated. The way you work through the video game is by overcoming every karmic impulse that tells you you're bad if you follow your soul desire. And you'll have to learn the basic reality of the universe, which is that you are loved by the universe simply because you exist. I've shared this before, I'll share it again. It's very profound. I was watching a video of a woman who claims to have had, died and come back. And her body was riddled with cancer, like giant, tumors, and she was dying. She went into a coma because her body was shutting down from the cancer. It was killing her. And while she was in a coma, I believe she passed away, like her heart stopped or something like that. And she went off to what we would call heaven. I mean, she had the other experience where she could hear everybody in the room and what they were saying, and she even heard what people were saying in other rooms that she couldn't have known. And then she went off to heaven, and she had this immediate experience of, oh my God, this joy. She was filled with joy. And the joy came from simply the fact that she existed. It came from nothing else, and she became aware that she had been living her life based on needing to be a good person based on what she did. And that's really what gave her cancer, was the conflict of, not being loved for who you are, but for what you do. And the awareness of, oh my God, I'm okay just because I exist. I don't need to do anything else to be loved. That's it. I'm loved by everything in existence. And it doesn't matter what I do. I'm loved simply because I exist. Unconditional love. And then she met her father, and her father said, it's time for you to go back. She says, I don't want to go back. And he says, yeah, it's time for you to go back, but just remember this and live fearlessly. So I didn't make this up. Live fearlessly. And she knew that if she came back in her body with the awareness that she was completely loved simply because she existed, and if she lived her life fearlessly, she knew that she would be completely healed of cancer. And it was an impossible thing to do. Like, her body filled with tumors, shutting down. It's too late. It's over. And sure enough, she woke up, and people were shocked. She had woken up from not only from her coma, but her heart had started beating again, and they were all, and she, to everybody's amazement, started healing. Within hours, the tumors started shrinking. And it's simply because of the conflict between, are you loved because you exist? Do you have self-love simply because you exist? Or are you trying to get love and approval from other people based on their agendas? This will always be, you come here to live your soul desire. In order to live your soul desire, you must overcome whatever karmic impulses that come at you tell you you can't do what you want, you have to live for other people. Everybody does this. Hitler does it. Hitler did it. Sorry, Hitler's dead. Hitler had the trauma and the horrors that he created came from his desire to be loved. I can't I can't psychoanalyze him, but I can make some guesses based on some things I know about him. He walked in on his mother having walked in on his mother cheating on his father with the Jewish baker. The guy happened to be Jewish. That stuck in him. From then on, Jewish people took his mother away from him. And so now you know the psychology behind his hatred towards Jewish people. He wanted mommy's love. This is how twisted things get. So it doesn't matter who anybody is, the most powerful survival instinct in the physical human body is the need to be loved and approved of. And however that morphs, people go, all the things that people do, the people that stormed the Capitol, when you get past all of the other superficial things and you get to the core of it, it's because they didn't feel loved and heard. And that was a desperate cry for please love me. If people are conscious of it, then they tend to, if they're conscious of it and they love themselves, then they tend to be loving people. They spend their lives figuring out how they can make people feel loved. But if you don't want it, that's okay. That's not my problem. I love myself. So these are the two things. We came here to fulfill our soul desire, and the conflicts to that are, do I follow my soul desire or do I make other people happy? And it can create serious, serious conflict, and this is where all disease comes from. The conflict between what your soul wants and your human desire to be loved and approved of. But if you can find a way, this is one of the ways to do it. If you can find a way, this is what all spirituality is. If you can find a way to know that you are loved simply because you exist, then you no longer need to get anybody else's love or approval, and you don't need to do all these neurotic things. And you just take action on your soul, and it doesn't matter what, you're bulletproof then. So you don't have to try and look it up in your astrology. Just, go to those other sites and just ask yourself the questions. What does my soul want? And when you know, just take action on it. Impetus correspondent question. What can you do if you take major action towards something you may think is your true soul desire, but it ends up not giving you joy like you thought? So you don't know what your soul desire is. You would never ask that question if you knew what your soul desire is. You might know what your soul desire is, but you might be in some neurotic conflict about it. So it sounds to me like you either haven't accepted your soul desire or you haven't found it. And it just means the question to ask yourself is, who am I trying to please? Whose love and approval am I trying to get? And you have to go through the death. Dr. Manhattan being torn apart is the death of giving up on, I'm never going to get my parents' love. I'm married to the wrong person. I've been trying to do this career. It's a very simple problem, but it's not an easy problem to overcome, which is why it takes thousands of lifetimes for us to fulfill our soul desire to such a degree that we don't want to come back. That's why, by the way, if you want to escape the matrix, live your soul desire. If you want to escape reincarnation, live your soul desire. Because the people who don't have to come back or don't choose to come back are the people after the last life that they live, and they're up in heaven and they're experiencing joy, and they go, okay, do I want to go back? They'll go, let me see, is there anything I've done everything. Let's see, in one life I was an actor, in another life I was a politician, I enjoyed that. In one life I was a surfer, and in the other one I was a porn star, and another one I was a baker, and another one I was a stay-at-home mom. And those were all fun, and I've done all those things. For the life of me, I can't think of anything else I would do. I've ridden every ride there is to ride in Disneyland. Let's go to Magic Mountain now. So impetus correspondent, you're in conflict with your soul desire. So go back and read those books and keep doing those things. And when you figure out what your soul desire is, then just take action. So this idea of you can take major action towards your soul, but it doesn't give you joy like you thought, it means that you're in conflict, you're still in confusion. I wish I could take your confusion away, but probably it's going to take some work on your part. And everything that I give you is designed to help you do that. Green Skydiver. Question: why do law of attraction YouTubers seem successful if they have bad advice? Great question. Why do crack dealers make so much money? Why do religion? Why is religion so popular? I mean, it's not, they're successful because everybody, as I said, most people, we live in a society, as I said earlier in the video, we live in a society where the collective unconscious of the human race is still very infantile and narcissistic. Little babies and little toddlers don't like doing hard work. They want everything given to them. People like having their narcissism being appeased. People like being told. Let me look at Christianity. Just believe in Jesus and you'll be saved. I mean, if I ever heard anything that sounded so much like the devil, just believe this and it'll all be okay. Just take this pill, it'll all be okay. Just believe in Jesus and all of your sins will be wiped away and you'll go to heaven when you die. Just have positive feelings and positive things will happen to you. And they'll even go and say, I got in trouble. I got shut down. My channel got shut down because I went and took quotes from Zohar the Magnificent. The Zohar, the lady who channels the aliens who give you basic, average advice about life that, common sense, that if somebody else said it would be common sense, but because she's channeling aliens, somehow it's this deep, amazing thing. I took quotes from her and I put it on my channel and I said, here's what she says. And she says numerous times, it's not about work. Stop trying to work. Sit on your ass and just imagine it and it'll happen. And I said, that's just not how the world works. The matrix responds to your actions, not your feelings. It's not that there isn't some truth to that. Of course, my thoughts and my emotions, if I indulge in certain thoughts and emotions, of course, that's going to create some response in other people. That's going to create patterns, of course. But that, again, is basic common sense. That's basic common sense. The matrix, the universe, responds to your actions regardless of your feelings. So once again, let me go back and tell you how not only is it an inaccurate, incomplete belief system, because again, your actions are a result of your assumptions. Your assumptions dictate your actions. So if you have the assumption that the universe responds to the vibration of my feelings. And if I have happy feelings, then happy things will come to me. And if I have bad feelings, bad things will come to me. Again, that's very infantile, narcissistic viewpoint. But it's also incredibly toxic. And the reason why so many people gravitate to it is because the law of attraction actually is a replay of their toxic, abusive childhood. And first off, what is the most toxic thing? I've just revealed it to you in terms of, this woman who came back from the dead and cured herself of cancer. What did she say? When she died, she realized that what is most important is that I am loved simply because I exist. My existence is the only thing that I need in order to be completely, totally loved by the entire universe, by God, by everything. I just exist. And if you just relax in that, I'm already loved by everything. Then you don't have to spend your time trying to be perfect or meet anybody else's standards or have any guilt it's meaningless. It's meaningless. So what a parent is supposed to do, a healthy parent, looks at a child and says, especially the mother is the only being in the universe that can love somebody unconditionally in their human form. It's a mother. And, not all mothers can do it, but you're only going to find it in the mother. And if you don't get it from your mom, you're not going to get it from anybody. So, sorry. That's why you have to go to therapy and do a religious practice so you can learn to love yourself. But that's what causes all the neurosis. So when you're an infant, if your mother is truly loving, she looks at you and she becomes a blank mirror, meaning that she has no agenda on you. She doesn't look at you and say, this person is going to be president. She doesn't look at this person and say, this baby's going to do all the things I never did. She's not going to look at it and go, oh my God, this baby's so needy. I hate neediness within myself, so I hate the baby. She's going to look at the baby and she's going to see it as perfect. Have you ever seen that? Like mothers with baby, oh my God, his little feet are perfect. That's the sign of a mother who is in that moment having an experience of unconditional love. Looks at the baby and sees the baby as perfect just because it exists. And so while the baby is an infant, whenever it cries, mommy comes running. Mommy doesn't say, shut up, stop crying, work it out yourself, I'm busy. No, she drops everything. Her nipples, start squirting milk. I mean, she runs to meet baby's needs because baby exists. And simply because baby exists and has a feeling, I must fulfill that need in that baby. So the baby then learns to have that experience of I exist, therefore I'm loved. Which is, by the way, a lot of the New Age stuff. The reason why so many people who have pain and trauma are attracted to things like law of attraction is because they didn't get their childish needs met. And that's why it's so popular. If I just have positive feelings, positive things will happen. They're going back to that infantile state of my feelings are the universe. Your vibration determines your reality. It's another way of saying your feelings are the universe. It's it's infantile. So what's toxic about that is that a toxic parent, a toxic mother starts to tell the child, you better be happy all the time or I will be upset with you. Stop crying. You can't have any negative feelings. So, toddlers to their parents all the time. If you go on YouTube, you see cute little videos of parents videoing their 2-year-old walking up saying, I hate you. I need a new mommy. And mommy goes, you do? Who do you want for your mommy? I want Auntie so-and-so. Okay, well, I'll let her know. And then the baby cries and runs over and mommy hugs her. Because mommy says, it's okay, you can hate me. It doesn't matter what you feel. I still love you. You can have positive feelings, you can have negative feelings. That will not change that I see you perfectly and that your feelings are valuable and I love and accept you no matter what. And when a child goes through that, through infancy and toddlerhood, then they start to learn to mother themselves. Because as they get older, objective reality will start giving them a different lesson, which is your feelings are not the universe. You will not get everything you want. You will be disappointed. You will not get food when you want it all the time. You're not going to, you have to share. You can't steal somebody else's toys. Now mommy and daddy say, go to your room, wash up, brush your teeth. You started getting, disappointed. You can't have everything you want. And it's traumatic. And then because the baby has had the experience of knowing that, yes, I'm angry right now because I'm not getting what I want, but that's okay. I'm loved simply because I exist. Then they learn to what therapists call self-soothe. People who have narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, they're incapable of self-soothing, which is why they're so destructive, why they're so narcissistic, because they can't self-soothe. An adult says, yeah, that girl next door, I was really in love with her. She was perfect for me, but she's going to marry that other guy. And I'm devastated and I'm sad, but you know what? I'm happy for her, and I still deserve love because I exist. And so it'll be okay. And they self-soothe and they get past it. So the law of attraction is telling you, it is co-signing somebody's unresolved infantile trauma. The infantile trauma of I exist and my feelings are the universe. I need somebody to mirror back my feelings to me so that I know that I exist and I can have what I want. That's what, if you have happy feelings, happy things will come to you. That's why it's so popular, because it goes back to the unresolved infantile need to just be okay because I exist and I have feelings. The toxic part is that those same toxic parents who weren't there to mirror back and meet baby's needs, to comfort baby when baby was sad and upset, whatever. When the parents weren't there for that, the opposite is true. They were, if they're unloving, dysfunctional parents, they are going to be stimulated negatively by baby's needs. So when baby needs love, daddy's going to say, stop crying, knock it off. Because it makes daddy uncomfortable because he can't tolerate seeing need. He himself was abused, so he's going to abuse his kid. He's going to tell his kids, you're never going to amount to anything. You better not cry. I'll give you something to cry about. So that is also what is the law of attraction. If you have happy feelings, good things will come to you. If you have bad feelings, bad things will come to you. That's daddy standing over you saying, I'll give you something to cry about. You better knock that shit off. Don't you dare be upset with me. I'll crack you over the skull. What did you say to me? I'm your father. You better not talk to me like that. That's mom with a spoon because baby's crying. That's all the law of attraction is, and it doesn't work. So the question is, why do so many people go after it if it doesn't work? It's because they have unresolved trauma from infancy and childhood. And they want to be told their feelings are what's important. And they want to live in that borderline state of, I'm happy all the time. I feel good all the time. Those questions you guys are asking me are a variation of that. How can I get over my fear? How can I get to the joy fast? I don't want to be in negative emotions. You're judging yourself for your negative feelings. Mommy wouldn't do that. If you came to mommy and you were crying, mommy wouldn't say, stop having that negative feeling. How can you stop being upset right now? Stop it. Mommy goes, come here. What's wrong? What's bothering you? Mommy says, it's okay to be upset. I still love you. If you can do that with yourself, you can be upset that you're afraid or you're angry or you're scared, and you can still take positive action. So ultimately, what am I teaching you? I'm teaching you how to evolve and how to be mature. That's all that spirituality is. As I've said before, the definition of enlightenment is this. The definition of enlightenment is not the childish, infantile, I'm free of every uncomfortable feeling and I live in bliss all the time. It's great if you do. I'm happy for you if you do. But that's not enlightenment. Enlightenment is that you accept, you have all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your impulses, all of your instincts, positive, negative, pleasant, or unpleasant. You have them all. You face them all. You feel all of them with no judgment, just like a mother would do. It doesn't matter whether you feel good or you feel bad. You experience all of your thoughts, feelings, and impulses, and you have no judgment on them. And then you still have the consciousness to take constructive action for both yourself and everybody else. That's enlightenment. So you can be filled with horrific, homicidal, suicidal pain and still be enlightened because you know what the constructive action is in the moment. If you're able to do that, it won't matter what you feel. People will love you. If you treat people consciously and constructively with unconditional love, even though you want to tear their throat out of their neck and shove it into their eyeball, if you treat them the way that you know is the constructive way to act, they will respond as though you are enlightened. They will say, that person, I love being around that person. They are so kind and so loving, and they're always so grounded. That's enlightenment. It's got nothing to do with how you feel. If you act in an enlightened manner, consistently over time, you will change and heal the traumas within you. You will heal them, and you will start to have loving, positive, happy feelings. It will start to change you, and then eventually you can be. Maybe you can be one of those people that's happy all the time. That, if you're like me, I don't know that that's ever going to happen. I've got a lot of unresolved childhood baggage. But I'm a hell of a lot happier now than I was even 5 years ago when I made that video. Did I answer your question? So the reason why it's so popular is because everybody wants to be placated as an infant. Everybody wants to be treated that way. And nobody wants to look at the pain of having to, the other most painful thing about learning to be loved, because that's what we're talking about here. Learning to be loved unconditionally by not just the universe, but by anybody else. If you have trauma within you, you don't feel loved. You feel unseen, unheard. You feel that you don't have any value. You feel bad. You feel like you're worthy of destruction. Whatever your negative, if you don't have love within you, when somebody loves you unconditionally, it will be traumatic for you. People want to find love, but what they don't realize is if they find somebody who truly loves them unconditionally, they're going to then have to go through the mourning of the pain of how mommy didn't love you, how daddy abused you, how your brothers and sisters, whatever you went through, whatever traumas you have associated with being loved, you'll have to live through them. And most people can't tolerate that. So what do? They chase after destructive people. Why do I keep getting the destructive boyfriend? It's because on an unconscious level, the thought of actually truly being loved is intolerable because it's painful. Because in order to be loved, you have to acknowledge how unloved you were. It's traumatic. And so it's easier to chase after the non-committal, emotionally unavailable, narcissistic boyfriend, because then you never have to work through the pain that you haven't acknowledged in your life. It's all about everything, all of this. It's all about becoming mature. Question. Let me see, what else? Baba Junzo question. Can the difficulty, and again, it makes me want to ask everybody, are you guys doing the work? Because people who are doing the work aren't asking these questions. Maybe you just started, I don't know. But the people who do this stuff, and I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. There are people who are doing this stuff that are reversing major traumatic mental and emotional issues that is blowing my mind. Like they're curing themselves of major chronic emotional psychological issues that I thought would have been incurable. They're just doing that every day. I'm just telling you what people are reflecting back to me. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Baba Junzo says, can the difficulty of the different challenges each of us chose to experience determine how many times the soul is incarnated? I don't know. I don't care. I'm in this life now. It's all that matters. So here's something, you only have the present moment. Here's another thing about exiting the matrix. When I was talking about exiting the matrix back 5 years ago, people would ask questions about that and get upset and all that. And people would say, I want to exit this matrix. I hate this matrix. And so the assumption is if they escape the matrix, then all of the pain will be left behind in whatever, in this world, and there won't be any pain in the next. And since they don't understand that their reality is a projection of their internal state of being. So if you live in an unfair universe, if you live in a matrix where elite beings deceive you, suck the life out of you, and the elites in this world are using you and destroying your life, then that's what you're going to experience. If that's, if you're experiencing that on the outside, it means that you're experiencing that inside. So the assumption is that this external matrix is what's causing all of the pain. And if I can just change my external reality, then I'll be happy. But that your external reality is only a projection of your internal state of being. So I would say to these people is, the exit to the matrix is at the North Pole. I'd say, then great. First off, prove to me that you want to exit the matrix, because if I thought, number one, that this was a matrix that was destroying me and doing all the things that people, say, and the exit to it was in the North Pole, I guarantee you I would find a way to get to the North Pole. I guarantee you I would find that exit and I would exit. So I found it, very ironic that these people claiming that the matrix is here, but how convenient. The one place in the world we can't get to, the most difficult place to get. You can get to Antarctica. That's an easy place. If you want to go vacation in Antarctica, you can do it. Anybody can do it. You can't get to the North Pole because it's actually, over the ocean and the top of the world. You can't get to it. How are you going to get to it? There aren't any, there's like Antarctica, there aren't any tourist trips that take you to the North Pole, to my knowledge. So it's very interesting. They find the most inconvenient place on the planet, and then they can stay safe in saying, yeah, the exit is in the North Pole, and yeah, the exit is real. Well, if that was the case, trust me, I would have found it and I would have gone there. I'd be out of here by now, if what you say is true. But the assumption is that if your external reality is what's making you unhappy and you change your external reality, you'll be okay, then what if that's not true? If what I'm saying is true is that your external reality is based on your internal reality, then when you escape the matrix, you're going to bring your crappy matrix into the next one. So you live now. What is important is now. That's all you have. In the next life, whether you're in heaven or whether you're in another physical body, the only thing you will have is now. So make your now the best it can be. The way to do that is to live fearlessly. In every given moment, live fearlessly, regardless of your temporary fluctuations of feelings, like the weather. It's temporary. When I get done with this video, I am going to go walk on the beach and get some sun because the weather's beautiful. Well, maybe next week or in a couple weeks the weather might be crappy again. So I'm going to go enjoy the weather while I have it. Stay in the moment. All you have is the now. Trying to escape the now is what causes all your problems to begin with. So who cares? It doesn't matter. You have multiple lifetimes in this body. I don't know what happens. Maybe when we're done with this earthly experience, we start incarnating into another. It doesn't matter how many lives you have or don't have. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change your happiness level. So stop too much thinking, Baba Junzo. You're overthinking it. Green Skydiver question, can people who did heinous things eventually fulfill their soul desire? Yeah. Why wouldn't they? Remember what I said earlier? You're loved simply because you exist. Every time that you incarnate, if Hitler has reincarnated, he gets a blank slate. He'll bring whatever karma he brings with him. But yeah, everybody gets to fulfill their soul desire. This is, again, Christian thinking. This whole guilt thing. There is no guilt. There is no judgment. You are loved simply because you exist. Vincent.thunderwizard.com says hello. He's one of my astrology certificate holders. You can go to his website and get a reading from him. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He even knows more than I do. He's gone beyond what I've taught him and has his own understanding. So, a great astrologer. Go check him out. Dean Nevins, question. I am going to do an elf ritual. Is it a good idea to do it along with my Vedic mantra? If so, when in the ritual should I do the mantra? I suppose I would do it at the end of the mantra, but my feeling is let the ritual just be itself. You can do that mantra the same day, but let the ritual be its own thing. That's my suggestion. That's not a rule. You can put the mantra, if you want to put the mantra in, put it at the end. Completely up to you. Kongadar J. All right, that's not a question. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Question. What is your opinion on antidepressants? My opinion is that I am not a doctor. So I don't talk about things I don't know anything about. You're saying that your doctor, so your doctor's not a psychiatrist? I mean, he's not a psychologist? Your doctor, your physical doctor, is telling you that there's a long wait to get into therapy, so you should take antidepressants. Well, first off, you shouldn't be listening to somebody who's not a psychologist. It doesn't sound like he's a psychologist. So I would, if he wants to tell you what antibiotics to take for this or what medicine to take for what he's an expert in, I would listen. I wouldn't listen to him I wouldn't talk to a plumber about how to, build a boat, So my opinion on antidepressants isn't what's important here. What's important here is don't get advice from people who aren't qualified to give it. So, are you saying, Vincent, that you're suffering from depression so much so that it's getting, causing you problems? I don't know what this is about. I don't understand why there's such a long wait. I don't understand that. You can go online and find therapists. Is it because of money, insurance? Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But you should be able to find therapy. You're my apprentice, and even though I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, just by you and I working together and you following my suggestions, your life is getting better. So if your life is getting better, do you think you need this? So I'm not gonna have an opinion on antidepressants because I'm not qualified to do that. But I will say, definitely people should not be taking antidepressants if they don't need it. And you don't know if you need it or yet not because you haven't gotten, a qualified psychiatrist. So a psychiatrist has to be somebody who prescribes that, I think. I don't think a psychologist can prescribe antidepressants. I could be wrong about that. So we're talking about two different things. And psychiatrists and psychologists are two different things. Psychiatrists are MDs who, that's what they do, is they medicate. Those psychiatrists are the people in loony bins that figure out what to give loonies, crazy, destructive, violent, people that need to be locked up, how to keep, so there, going to a psychologist is somebody who's going to help you with your feelings. And the other thing that I do know about antidepressants is once you take them, you can't just stop taking them. It fucks with your completely changes the chemical makeup of your brain. So, if you're going to, antidepressants are a commitment. There might as well be a lifetime commitment. So my suggestion to you based on what I know about you is I definitely would not recommend that. If you're getting better because you are working with me and you are, and I recommend this, find a good psychologist to work with, keep doing what works. And your doctor's well-meaning, but I think that his suggestion is probably a little premature. And that's what doctors do. Doctors medicate. So My opinion on antidepressants, I don't have an opinion. My suggestion for you, because I have a relationship with you, is I don't think that's a good idea. I would keep that on the back burner unless, you honestly really think that, antidepressants are going to help you. Antidepressants can be very destructive. There have been people who have taken them and they have had very destructive effects on them. So, since you haven't talked to a qualified person who really knows what they're about, you and I can talk about it more in our sessions. Oh, you decided to get them. I didn't read the whole thing. He suggested to take them because there's a long way to get into therapy. I decided to get them. Well, if you've started them, then keep taking them. If you haven't started taking them yet, don't. Wait. If it's not life and death, if your health is getting better and your feelings are getting better, don't screw with it. Don't mess with that yet. Honest feeling, he says over here, I've recently become aware that I'm uncomfortable when others express their feelings, especially anger. This is because I'm uncomfortable expressing my own feelings. Okay, so that's an honest feeling. I appreciate that. Honest feeling, I feel ashamed for taking antidepressants. My mom was shocked when I told her about it. So are you already taking them? So now I'm really not qualified, because now if you start taking them, you got to keep taking them, because you've already shifted your chemical makeup, and so now you need to know what to do. If you decide to get off of them at some point, you'll need a doctor's help to do that. I wish you had talked to me about that before doing it. I would have liked to have been a part of that discussion with you. Robin Smith, question. In my astrology, does how you were born... Robin Smith, it's good if you make sure that the spelling is accurate, because I'm not sure I'm understanding you. In astrology, does how you were born, such as a planned C-section opposed to going into labor, affect your birth chart? Okay, so you're talking about birth time. So just to make it simple, no. The moment that you leave your mother's body and hit air, you're born. Does that answer your question? Ask a question, write the word question. When you face your particular direction, Dakota asks, and do your mantra, do you do it both in the morning and at night for 40 days or just once a day? If you're doing your mantra twice a day, then you do the same thing twice a day, whatever your ritual is. If you're doing your mantra once a day, you do it once a day. So to answer your question, every time you do your mantra ritual, you follow the ritual, which will have a specific direction and everything else. So does that answer your question? Livity Jim, question. Where do you see humanity in the next 3 to 5 years? Who gives a crap? It's not, who cares? I don't waste my time with those kinds of questions, because I can barely, have control over my own life in the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. How the hell am I going to know where humanity is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? I think anybody who talks like that, unless they're talking about from some, expertise in something, they can't possibly know. I mean, did anybody here know that COVID was coming? Did anybody know that, here it is a year and a half later, that not only is COVID not gone, but it's, in some cases worse than ever? There are people, I'm not in the United States, thank God. But I'm now finding that there are people getting into fist fights, that parents are punching teachers in the face because teachers are saying that kids should be wearing masks in class. I mean, the amount of lunacy and craziness going on. I mean, did I know that this kind of stuff was going to be happening 3 to 5 years ago? I sure as hell didn't know. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know, I'm hoping that this thing will calm down on a selfish note, so that I can, go back to, knowing what I was doing in terms of my visa here in Australia. But this whole pandemic thing sort of keeps, I don't know, from, I have another few months, and then I'll figure out if I can keep staying here or not. I have no, short answer, I have no clue. And I don't think anybody really does. But it doesn't even matter. The point is, there are people in this world that are very miserable and upset. I am not one of those people. I live, I think, in the best possible place, not only in the world, but under the current circumstances. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. You know, we don't have any COVID problems in this part of Australia. Other parts of Australia they do, but those, we've been blocked off from them and they can't come into our area. So I'm on vacation from all that crap. And I'm just worried about myself and making myself happy. And when I do that, I end up always in the optimal position. I always end up, you know, I left the United States, you know, not a few months before COVID, but I did it because my soul was telling me, move, go to Australia, get the hell out. And when I was in New South Wales, which is the state now, one of the states that is having a bunch of COVID problems, just before COVID hit, I was living in a house down there and I hated it down there, but literally the house was attacking me. I kid you not. I would go to open a door and I'd, like, you know, bang my knuckles. Open a window, I'd bang my knuckles. I tried to get internet. I couldn't even get internet. The internet, you know, the guy who was going to come turn it on, you know, somebody told him not to come, or he's got a flat tire. It was like the universe was like telling me, get the hell out of this house. And so I did. I said, screw it, I'm out of here. And for other reasons too. And I moved back to where I am now. And then COVID hit, and I would have been stuck there. I would have been stuck in New South Wales with all that COVID disease running around and the lockdowns. And I've been here in Queensland. It's been, you know, I haven't had any of those problems. And the point of that is that I follow my soul, and my soul always makes sure that I'm taken care of. All right. All right, so that's it for me. I don't see any other questions here. So that's it. Yeah, so we've got all this stuff here. We'll have more stuff coming here. We've got, you know, the water set will be coming. We've got wood, metal, and fire. And soon we're going to have water. And then we're going to have earth after that. And so you can check that out. And then, of course, the links here. Go check those out. They're all here for a reason. And make use of the channel. There's over, I don't know, what is it, 1,500 videos now, something like that. You can make sure to know how to search the channel so that if there's something that you want to hear me talk about, see if I've already talked about it. I probably already have. All right. I'll see you guys when I see you. Best of luck to you. Stay safe. And yeah, talk to you next time.